Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. We're going deep in the muds on Amigos, episode 371. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today, Aaron, we're talking about
Oh
muds.
yeah, sounds
Now,
good,
Aaron,
man.
you were a big BBS guy back in the day.
I
What was
was.
the first mud that you played?
Well, Muds actually were kind of. I did not play Muds. I'll be honest with you.
Hmm.
I didn't do any. In fact, I don't think I ever played a one. That was sort of something. I mean, I'm sure they were around. It's not something I actually did. I played multi-user games, but like it was more like Space Dynasty and Trade Wars and stuff like that. So Muds. Now the Chud was deep in the Muds. His favorite one was this game where you play vampires. I may have told this story before, but one of the things, of course, a Mud multi-user dungeon. That's not what today's game is, by the way. But just while we're on the subject, multi-user dungeons on BBSs meant that you would type in commands and whatnot to play the game. And in the game Chad played, he got so obsessed with it, he'd be on there all the time. And I remember he pulled his, this was unheard of at the time, but he pulled his whole computer rig right up to his bed. And so he would just lay there and just play. I mean, a full rig. It wasn't like a
Now,
laptop.
muds are really like a text-based rogue, right? Is that how you describe
Well,
them?
it depends. I mean, they varied.
Like, for example, this vampire, I know you didn't play it, but I'm sure you were around when he was playing it.
Yeah, I
Give me the
was.
rundown of the play of this
Well,
game.
uh, you would just move around, and you would basically, as far as I could tell, you would obtain power and stuff. I don't know how, and then you would try to kill off the other people in the
Was this a
world.
graphical game, or was it all
No, it was
text-based?
all text. But
That's what I thought.
his cunning plan was because Chad's he's an angler.
Mhm.
He knew that to kill someone, you'd have to type in like /kill and then like boat. All right. So his name was like 70 character long jarbled mess that he
Mm.
could. By the way, he could pronounce it for me as I recall. So whatever it was, but I mean, so people to kill him, but they'd have to time it somehow to where they type all that in to kill him. So he knew they could never get his name typed in quick enough for him to die.
He'd be gone.
That's
That's a good
right.
plan.
Yeah. So that's the kind of crap. But no, Muds were not my bag boat back in
Mm.
the day, and I'm guessing you've never played one.
No,
Yeah.
no. I knew about them, but that was something that, by the time I was using the internet, had already gone away.
Now, what do you think about, since this is more in line with the game? What mud-based sports have you gotten into in your life?
Well, we used to play a bit of football in the School of Music at Ohio University. There used to be a big open field, and it was named after my friend Greg. We were just talking about Greg. It was called the Hockman Dome.
Hmm.
And we used to get out there, all the School of Music guys. We're not what you call athletically built, most of us. But we would go out there in the fall, and we would play full-on, unpadded tackle football
Hmm.
and just destroy our bodies. And so
Yeah.
rolling around in the mud and back there in the Hockman Dome, that's probably the only mud sport I've ever taken part in.
Along those lines, I don't know if I ever mentioned the show, but they have every year at Thanksgiving they have a mud-based football game in St. Albans, which is a little town near where we live. It's called the Toilet Bowl, Bo. You know about it.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
the two teams that from I think it's one on each side of the tracks out there have perpetually had a game on this day for like what 60 years or something
A
ridiculous.
long,
It's a
long time,
long
yeah.
time, and there's even a really cruddy trophy. There's a Miss Toilet Bowl that comes out. It's a neighborhood thing, but it's pretty famous around these parts. Did you ever get into stuff like mudding or tractor pulls or any of that stuff?
I've never been one for, they call them, I think, adventure vehicles. You see these things, it seems like they get more popular every year.
Yeah, they're
And of
everywhere
course,
around
you
here.
always pass by the guys, the jacked up trucks, not jacked up as in broken, I mean physically jacked up like 12 feet in the air
Yeah,
with the monster truck tires that have mud all over them. But that's never been, another mudding activity I did was doing marching band competitions.
yeah.
Those were frequently held in mud
Yeah,
fields.
yeah, yeah. You know what? Boy, I've been there. That's for sure. Have you ever lost a shoe on the field?
Well,
I've got.
I've got, at Hazard County, Kentucky,
Yeah.
my sophomore year, we did a competition there, And then not only was the field incredibly muddy, but I forgot my marching band shoes.
Yeah.
And you know what happens when you forget your shoes? You got to march in the old socks. So I did the mud and the socks
I've
came
never heard.
together.
Usually they have
It
a
was
spare
awful.
pair in the trunk
Nobody had a
somewhere.
spare pair. There was
Man,
nothing going
you
on.
got
I got
jobbed
no
out.
action.
I've never heard of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of accidents happen in the mud in the band competition as well. You know the I don't know if a lot of people know what mudding is because I was
Oh yeah,
talking
we should explain that.
mudding. There's a sport that in your more rural communities where you just take like your truck or whatever and you go out to the muddiest like swampy dump that you can find and then you try to drive through it. You know
Mhm.
that's the sport. And
You do
so
donuts, you cavort,
yeah,
you know. I
there
think there's
may be
beer
drinking,
involved.
yeah,
Yeah.
but often, I mean, and this happens all the time. But I know you see, you'll be at the gas station, and like a truck will come in, and it's just completely covered in
It just
mud.
you
Like,
see no paint. It's just mud all over it.
you know,
Yeah.
famously, do you remember that reality show that was on MTV that had the West Virginia people in it? It was called Buck Wild, I think it was called.
Mm,
It was on MTV. It was sort of a hit show, sort of in the vein of like your Jersey Shore.
right.
And famously, one of the stars on that, in fact, and a couple other people died because they were out mudding and their car, their exhaust pipe got clogged with mud and they got stuck and they literally died of asphyxiation in the car.
Oh, that's horrible.
So I mean, I guess you didn't think that could happen, but it can.
Yeah.
Yeah, but mud based sports and like hey, mud wrestling was a big thing back in the day. We don't see that too much anymore. That was something else I could think
I
of that
wonder
was
why
mud.
you I mean, obviously, I think it's just the abundance of other filth that is better filth. It's easier to get, kinda took the place of mud
Well, you
wrestling.
know, mud wrestling. There's a. I'm sure it's.
Are you about to say there's an art to it? Because I already don't
No, I'm
believe you.
not saying that. I hated it. But mud wrestling, it was something that used to be only you would only see it like a strip club or like a
Right.
specialty event. You know what I mean?
Mhm. It
But
would
then
be like yeah.
it
Yeah.
sort of it cajoled its way into like pro wrestling, and so they for a while on Monday nights when they wanted to get a big rating, they'd get the chicks out in the bikinis and they'd have mud wrestling and
Mhm.
stuff. But it's always horrible. It's all, and I
Right.
never understood even the sexiness of it. And a muddy chick, I don't know, it doesn't do it for me. I don't know, but
Yeah.
somebody does it. But yeah, it's here recently. Thankfully, that's fallen out of favor, Boot.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what's not falling out of favor, Aaron. It's the Amiga. We've had tons of Amiga news this week. Why don't we talk about it?
Good idea.
All right, Aaron. Our first story this week comes to us from Indie Retro News. You know, if you haven't been to indieretronews.com lately, you need to check them out because that's where we get all our
You
stories
got
from
to
when it
go
comes to
there.
gaming.
Yeah,
There's a game, Aaron, that's pretty famous called Among Us. Do you
yeah.
know anything about this game?
I have heard of this one. Yes.
Yeah, this is a game I believe where there's lying involved. It's one of these games where like somebody is the spy or like the bad guy, and you don't know it until it's too late, and then he runs or she runs rampant all over you. So, this game, of course, incredibly popular on the PC, but now is coming to the Amiga.
Hmm.
There is an outfit called Electric Black Sheep. This is it says Among Us Inspiration. So I don't know if this is actually a port of the actual game or if they're just using those Among Us creatures as they go about. It looks sort of like an alien breed thing, doesn't it?
They call it None of Us. So there
Yeah,
you
none of
go. Yeah.
us.
You know, again, I've seen the little guys, but I don't know much about the game. I never played it, so I don't know if this is a straight pour. I'm like you. I'm kind of in the dark on this. So, but I mean,
Well, they do talk. They say the essence of this test is to obscure the opponents from the player's viewpoint with light and shadow.
oh, I see.
So this is something that is unique to the Amiga, it requires an Amiga with an ECS, 2 mega chip RAM, and a fast CPU. So you can download this thing and you can try it out, I guess, if you want to, or maybe not. Maybe you can just watch the video. But I don't know. Again, this is one that popped up, and since I don't really play, I get Among Us and Fall Guys confused a lot,
Yeah,
but
Fall
they're
Guys is
different
way
things.
different. Yeah, this
Yeah.
looks like it's good. It's a work in progress. It says, but you can download it right now. It looks like it's one of these name your own price gimmicks. I like the name
Mm.
your own price gimmick,
Yeah, I
but
know what your price is.
no, I listen. I pay big time, brother. I pay every day I
Mm.
get up out of bed. But yeah, I like this, so I may have to give that a shot because I always heard that game was a lot of fun. Like I said, I have not
Yeah.
played it. I don't know.
Now, this next story, Aaron, two games are being updated: Metro Siege and Demon Claw. And both of these games, of course, we've been talking about Metro Siege for 2 or 3 decades now.
Oh,
This game looks freaking fantastic.
yeah,
This
it
is
does.
that Final Fight game,
Yeah.
if you recall. And this is a basically it's sort of a developer thing where they're talking to the people that are making the games. And it says that they're showing off, just work in progress footage, talking about colors that they use. And of course, these being OCS games, it's always sort of interesting how they manage to cram that many colors onto the screen at once. So if you're curious about the technical specifics of these games and want to see some brand new footage, I'm super excited for both of these. Both of these are made with the Scorpion engine. So, of course, the Scorpion engine, as noted, it allows non-programmers to make high-quality retro games that run on 16-bit hardware. I never buy it when they say non-programmers because there's usually some heavy lifting involved. It's not as if you're just dragging and dropping stuff. So
Y-
I'm excited for both these games, and especially Metro Siege, because I'm a sucker for a good Final Fight clone.
You know what you should do, Boat, in the Discord? You guys should put together a Scorpion Engine area and then get somebody to come in and help you and then groupedly make some sort of game. That'd be a nice challenge.
I am in line right behind you to get on that.
Come on. I can't make a game. I'm an idiot, Boat. You've got brains.
Next up, Aaron, we've got a story. This is just what do we call this? This is a YouTube video where we're making. There's a guy that is talking about paint programs on the Amiga. Now, Aaron, you know that we had a little foray into deluxe paint in the early days of the show, where we thought it would be a great idea to talk about some good old serious applications
Yeah.
on the Amiga. And of course, that did not last very long. So if you want somebody to give you a rundown on different paint programs on the Amiga, this guy does deluxe paint, personal paint, and brilliance. His channel name is Mikey G Retro. You can
Good
check
name.
out his channel and his video on paint programs on the Amiga.
Is that the one we brought Will in on? I can't always. I know
That's
he.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And so, yeah, but listen, we brought in a ringer because we knew our shortcomings. We know better. Yeah, it looks great. Hey, listen, serious Amiga. We've got silly Amiga covered, so it's good to see
That's right.
someone bringing
We
the
got
serious side.
plenty
Yeah.
of silly. Now, Aaron, I'm going to let you take this next story. It's the last week to enter the Amiga Art Contest. Tell
Oh
us
yeah.
about the Amiga Art Contest.
So, as you all may or may not know, we know a fine fellow named Doug, and Doug runs the 10-minute Amiga Retrocast, a very popular YouTube show. And the last few years, Doug has been running the Amiga Art Contest 2022. And I believe you've got well, as the recording of this, I think it's like 6 days left to submit your various project. Of course, aside from just straight up art, I believe there's also music. I think there's an animation thing. There's a lot of different categories. If you want to go over to AmigaArtwork.com, like Doug has got a real nice setup here to kind of hold your hand. Also shows you some of the people that have previously won. This year, in the past couple years, Doug has judged this with Pixel Vixen, who's a well-known artist that does the Amiga art quite a bit, and she's over in Japan. But I think she could not fit this in, and so they've brought in Kevin
Kevin
Saunders,
Saunders.
and I believe
I
wasn't he one of the
believe.
he was one of the guys that like won parts of this.
Yeah, I think he's like a previous winner.
So
Don't know much about Kevin Saunders. Don't know what his role is in the Amiga
well,
community,
I've
but I'm
seen
sure
his
he's
art.
somebody.
It's
Yeah.
and it's great. But yeah, this looks great. It should be a lot of fun. And then eventually, I asked Doug. He couldn't pin down a date when they would release the video for this, but it should be a lot of fun. I would say sometime probably in the next month after it closes, they'll finally put the final
Well,
show together.
if they really want to get somebody that knows what they're doing to get in here, Doug needs to call up Barkbit, because Barkbit is the savant when it comes to any sort of Amiga creativity. He does great art, he does great music. He's the man. So my suggestion, dump this Kevin guy, get Barkbit on the
Well,
call.
no, don't. What are you burying Kevin for? He didn't do nothing.
Listen, man.
He's a
If
renowned
I don't
artist. Don't
a
bury
renowned
him.
artist, come
Listen,
on.
ignore
Come
Bode. He's
on.
been an idiot. He's a good guy. I've heard him talk. Barkbit also, by the way, is a stud who's entered this in previous years. So this stuff's always great. And by the way, I use his music on pretty much every show I do. So you know I love him. He literally he's
How
a
many shows do you do exactly?
oh man, I don't want to count. There's a ton. Plus I've got bits of his music in so many of my shows and proc. I mean, it's everywhere. Credits, openings, everywhere. Barkbit all over it. Barkbit, Duncan Styles, everywhere. So yeah, check
All
this
right.
out. 10-minute Amiga Retrocast should be a good time. Check that out. Get your art in soon, Bode.
Next up,
Not you. Don't you get your art in, for God's sakes.
no, gosh, nobody needs another lame Angelo. So, Aaron, Chris Edwards is back with another repair video. You checked this one out.
Yeah.
What's going on with this 3000T, man?
Listen, Chris Edwards puts out a ton of videos every week. He's got a couple, and I like to spotlight at least one every week or two. And listen, I call Chris wacky. I give him the business sometimes, but let me tell you something. I've been around the block when it comes to doing board repairs over the years. Sometimes they're easy, sometimes they're hard, and I was watching him do the work on this 3000 tower Amiga board, and this is some seasoned professional stuttery. And I want to give this guy his just desserts and his dap and give him all the love for his ability to take this thing out of the fire. The troubleshooting he spotlights in this video is particularly compelling if you're whether you're a old troubleshooter like I am, or someone that's just coming down the line, or someone that doesn't troubleshoot at all, because he does a great systematic look at this stuff, and the way he goes through it is quite. There's a cadence and there's an order to how you troubleshoot stuff. And as I watched him do this, because this is the second part of this video, I was very impressed. This guy didn't just fall off the turnip truck. He is a good hand, a great hand. And if you want to watch someone who knows what they're doing go to work, then this is the video for you. I was real impressed. I was very happy to see him succeed here. It was a lot of fun. I don't know much about some of the bigger Amigas, and so just to get to him to go through it and kind of explain some of what's going on or what could cause certain troubles, it was quite remarkable. I really enjoyed it, and so I thought some of our more hardcore listeners and viewers might want to check it out. And along those lines, we don't have this listed, but I want to mention this as well. Our good buddy 48K Ram was up on stream last night, and he was on Tuesday troubleshooting his BBC Micro. This is another excellent. Not only is it interesting to watch him work, but much like Chris, there's a methodology to what he does, but it's an interesting look into what makes these computers tick. In the case of this particular video, it's the 3000T. In the case of 48K RAM, it's his BBC Micro, which a machine I'm not very familiar with, Boat. And so I found both these very compelling. You can check Chris Edwards out on his channel right now, and we'll have 48K RAM's stream up here in a week or so for you to check that out. I recommend both. They're quite interesting. Boat. A couple more things I want to talk about before we shut the news down. That's all the links we've got. I want to once again direct people. We mentioned it last week, but I'll mention it again. You see me, I'm wearing the shirt here. The Amiga Show. If you haven't checked this out, get over and check this thing out. He needs far more action on this video, and his whole series is great. If you haven't checked out the Amiga Show, just hop on YouTube and look it up. I love the quality. I love the quality of the video in it because it's all done with an Amiga, and it's got that rich sort of 80s and 90s feel to it that you really can't. It's real hard to emulate that in the boat with modern equipment. It's real nice.
Yeah, I mean, what he's done is he's created a product that looks like it actually came from the time period that he's talking about, which is not easy to do because it's super easy to make something that looks slick or that looks like it's not slick but filmed on a phone,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So it looks like it's got just enough rough edges and it's got that music behind it.
Yeah.
And it's got, I mean, you can almost see like the tracking on the VHS, but I mean, it's just like, it's really, it's a show unlike any other. And it's so much better than any other Amiga content on the internet.
Well, I mean, I don't want to go down that road. I mean,
well, I will.
Good.
I'm telling you straight up, there's nobody that does it better. Name me one person that does it better.
Listen, I'm not going to bury all the other shows, but I will say this.
I'm not burying anybody. I'm just saying there's a winner, and it's the Amiga Show.
The Amiga Show, I'm not going to say that because it's not fair, but the Amiga Show, it has an artistic element to it that I really enjoy. That's particularly the part on in this particular episode on the photos that he used with his digitizer. I thought were quite beautiful, and I like how he highlights. You really get the feel of the Amiga for in those early heady days as not just a computer where you play a bunch of cool games. But I mean, this thing was an art tool. This was a design tool, and you do get a feel for what Commodore probably wanted you to think about it, as opposed to ultimately what it became. And so he does a great job fleshing that out. So I wanted to give that a little bit of hype there, but a great show. We're very fortunate in the Amiga community. We've got a lot of great content, Bode.
It's the best. I don't care what you say. It's the best. It's number one. Nothing can touch it.
Fair enough. You know what else nothing can touch?
Freaking Frank. That's what.
I mean, you could touch it for a price, I'd wager, but it's our good buddy Frank over at RetroRewind.ca, our fine friend from the Great White North. What's Frank doing up there? Well, he's doing a bunch of stuff. The first thing he's doing is fixing your retro computer if you have a problem. You know, not everyone on Earth is a Chris Edwards. Not everyone on Earth can take these machines and whip them back into shape. But Frank absolutely can. If you've got anything in the Commodore family that you can't get to work, that's having problems, me and you have both had computer troubles over the years. Some real wacky stuff, too. Joysticks not working or mouse buttons failing. How the heck do you fix that? We don't know. We don't know what they're doing. That's the kind of things you would set up to Frank over at RetroRewind.ca. And not only will he do a great job, but he'll also give you a fine price, and he'll get it done quick. If you think you are studly enough to do repairs on your own, Frank has a full array of not only diagnostic materials for your Commodore and TRS-80 color computer, but he also has replacement caps, top shelf caps. He's also got all the parts you would need to not only repair, but to augment these machines with various SD solutions, accelerators. Really, it's your one-stop shop for anything you would need that's Commodore related or a TRS-80 color computer. I can't think of a better place to go, Boat. And thankfully, Frank's a good friend of ours, and he has allowed us to share with you a code that will give you a percentage off your total bill. Tell them about it there, Boat.
That's right. If you go to RetroRewind.ca and fill up your cart full of goodies, large or small, you can use promo code Amigos10 at checkout. Make sure you create an account first or the code won't work. Use that promo code and save yourself 10% off the already low prices offered at RetroRewind.ca. We appreciate Frank and his team up there for offering a quality service to the community and also for being an official sponsor of Amigos.
Absolutely.
A little bit of real-time follow-up from the chat. Amiga Gamer says Kevin Saunders has done a lot of cool artwork for games. Amiga games such as Reshoot R and modern PC releases with an Amiga feel like Iridium. So it's possible Kevin Saunders is, after all, qualified to be a judge for the Amiga art contest.
Listen, he hasn't done Lim Angelo, so that means he's ahead of the game. And that Reshooter R, I knew his name was from one of these things. That's what I remember him from.
All right, Aaron, let's talk about M.U.D.S.
Deep in the mud. All right, Boat. M.U.D.S. it is. Now, as I often do, I'm going to ask you the same thing I ask you every week. Is this one that you've seen on your radar before?
Never. This is one I've never even, never even heard a whisper of M.U.D.S. before this week.
I'm going to be with you. I've never heard, and the thing is, we've played similar games. Yeah. But I've never heard this even come up. And what makes this more surprising is this was published by Rainbow Arts and developed by Golden Goblins, which is sort of from what I could tell was sort of like a Rainbow Arts Junior, basically, developer. Golden Goblins, I'd never heard of them either. They only did two things on the Amiga that I could find: Grand Monster Slam, and this one, Boat, we've got to check out sometime. Circus Attractions. Apparently, it's like a Fiendish Freddy type game, so we've got to look into that.
Game Selection Committee, fire that up.
Again, published by Rainbow Arts, the same people that brought you the Turricans, Master Blaster, Great Gianna Sisters. They've done a lot of stuff over the years. And this one was coded by a guy with a name I've never heard before. Listen to this name, Gisbert Sigmund.
I like it. He sounds like a fourth level wizard.
Yeah. He was responsible for coding circus attractions and a game called Vampire's Empire. That also sounds cool. A
Mm-hmm.
couple other coders worked on this: Holger Ahrens and Volker Marone. I'm guessing this was, would you guess Germany or somewhere up in that area for these? Because these
That that
names,
that would be where I'd guess. Of
yeah,
course, my linguistic skills leave something to be
yeah, there
desired,
you
so I could
go.
be off, but that's what I'd guess.
Graphics on this were done by Hartwig Nieder Gassel. That's a,
Man,
yeah,
some great
yeah, I
names.
know. Hartwig. He worked on Realms of Canta, Spin World, Kellogg's Land. I believe you have had a cup of coffee with that one. Western
Yep.
Games. That's another one I found out. Western Games. That might be
Yes,
fun.
we need it.
We got to write these down. The
Mhm.
music on this, you may have heard of a guy called Chris Hillsbeck.
Mhm.
Boy, he's done a few things. Just to name a few, of course, the Turkins, Ophidia, BC Kid, Great Young Sisters, Master Blaster, R-Type. Tons and tons of stuff for him. This was a 2-disc game, ECS, OCS, and it's unknown which particular format this was released on. So here's something that's interesting, Boat. Of course, M.U.D.S was listed as a. In fact, everywhere I looked, M.U.D.S was listed as a release for Amiga and the PC. But apparently, according to a couple sources I found, it had been advertised also on the ST, and was even mentioned in their manuals in a couple places. And apparently, some people think that somewhere they've got prototypes of this, but it was never released. So the ST missed out on getting a copy of the M.U.D.S Boat.
Yeah, I mean, that's very interesting to me because it seems like this would be when you look at the date of its release, plus the kind of game that it is,
Yeah,
it seems like a no-brainer that you want to put this out on the ST as well as the Amiga.
it was. I was also surprised, if I'm honest. But who knows? Who knows why? Maybe they released it on the Amiga and DOS, and it didn't do all that great, and they said the heck with it. Who knows?
Yeah.
Although I've also heard through the grapevine, I don't have any data for this, that this game so well in Germany and the surrounding countries there. That's where most of the people. And according to what I read, this was also popular in the UK. Although from what I saw online, this game is one of those games that sort of doesn't get a lot of talk online. I didn't see a whole lot about it. There weren't a
I'm
lot of
glad you didn't
videos.
go for DAP because I hate
Listen, I
that.
love that, and I'm going to use it again before the day's over because it's my word of the day. So, let's try to describe what M.U.D.S is, Boat. In fact, go ahead, Bud. I've been talking. Describe what M.U.D.S is exactly.
M.U.D.S is rugby with a live fish.
Well, among other things, but yeah, that's such a
M.U.D.S
stupid.
is a
It is
M.U.D.S is
rugby.
a M.U.D.S is a sports game that offers you simulation elements and management elements. But at its core, it's a game like rugby. You play as part of a side, and you carry it's sort of an amphibious fish. You carry it to the edge of the field. When you get to the end zone, there is a moat that you must toss the fish over, or I guess you can jump with the fish over the moat and deposit the fish into a basket.
I will say,
When you
but before you continue, that's not a fish, believe it or not. According to the documentation, that is a flightless pterodactyl. So,
Oh,
so that's
well,
what
that
you.
was my next guess. It
Yeah,
was right under
it's called a
fish.
flonk, by the way. There's a
You
lot of
know
that. Get ready for that. There's
the
a lot of that in this.
the names in this documentation
Yeah,
are off the chart stupid.
yeah,
It's like sometimes you just want to say just call it gold. You
yeah.
don't have to come up with a stupid name
Not
for everything.
Schnorgberg. It's like no, it's a
Right, right.
Schnorgberg. Yeah, there's a
I'm
lot of
sure
that.
that the writers were just having a hilarious time, but a little of that goes a long
Yeah.
way
Anyway,
for me.
I thought I'd throw that in. But go ahead. Yeah, it's a flonk. Carry
Okay,
on.
so anyway, the game itself is pretty simple. I mean, you literally you've got the members of your squad have different characteristics. You've got your big tank-like creatures, and they're all sort of humanoid creatures. They well, not all of them, but
Yeah, I
you've
was going
got
to say you've got plenty of weirdos on the team.
yeah, your the concept behind this game is that when you go to prison, you somehow become an international superstar playing this sport,
Well,
which seems
did
dumb.
you read? And I don't know if you looked at the manual, but you only have a few choices to what you can do when you go to prison. You can break rocks. You can be a guinea pig, for scientists and doctors, or you can do this if you're qualified.
Right.
So
And
basically,
here's the thing, but I mean, here's the thing. You've gone to prison ostensibly because you've done something wrong.
yeah,
You know, you've done larceny, murder, or whatever. And so, you know, your choices are two horrible things, or you can play this sport. By the way, when you play the sport, you get to stay at 3-star hotels. You get to go out into the taverns and drink it up. You
yeah.
get to live a great life. Why is everybody not playing MUDs? I kind of want to be a MUDs player right now.
Well, a couple reasons. One, you can easily die, and also one thing in this game you've got to come to grips with is that you're a slaver, and everyone on your team is a slave. You buy at an auction, you buy and sell them like property. They're in chains as you go to buy them. So I mean, you're basically dealing in slavery in this game because which
I
I
will
thought was
say,
odd.
you know, if well, I think we should tackle each one of these different simulation mechanics
Yeah,
one by
yeah.
one.
Go ahead. Yeah,
But just rounding up on the game itself, you are a traveling squad and you go to these towns. There's a big map, and when you play a match and then you leave the town, you go to the next town to play another match. Eventually, you get to the final match and you win the game.
right.
This game is playable with one versus computer. You can go one versus two. I believe there's a two-player competitive or cooperative version, and then you can also watch the computer play itself and turn the game into more of a strategy game because you can select tactics. You can choose to be aggressive, defensive, offensive, or tactical, which I mean just means like I guess you whatever you want.
Yeah.
And so there's also substitutions. There's a certain amount of strategy on what kinds of players. For example, you've got little lizard men that are really fast. You've got humans that are kind of like the heroes. They're sort of overall like the best player. And you've also got big like golem like creatures that are really slow but they're really tough. So there's that aspect of the game. So if we look at MUDs as the actual game, that's what you've got. Anything to add to just the actual game of MUDs?
When you play the game itself, and we'll get, like you said, we'll get into the strategy part. When you play the game itself, uh, um, I will say one of the things I like, the little flourish at the beginning, is you put on this big green field, and as you play it, the field gets all scuffed up. That's pretty
Hmm.
slick.
Yeah, I like that
The
too.
game itself, when you're trying to throw the flonk in that basket, and so you've got sort of a lob mechanic in it with the crosshairs, which is it's different. I mean, a lot of
Well,
people,
yeah, this is the way that the controls work. I should explain the
yeah,
controls. So it's a one button game, obviously.
yeah,
So you traverse the field, and the flonk you carry the flonk. So there's no, it's not like a soccer game where you're worried about the ball getting away from you. You're carrying the flonk, and whenever you press the button and you hold the button down, there's a crosshairs that appear, and you can move that crosshair around, and it sort of starts close to you and it gets further away as you go, and that's what you use to either pass the flonk or shoot the flonk.
yeah.
And so I don't think that's the worst, to be honest with you. I don't think that's the worst control method. If you're stuck with one button, that gives you a certain amount of control over not only the direction that you pass or shoot, but also how far you want to shoot it.
Yeah, it's not the worst. This game's going to be, in fact, everything I read did this. It's off compared to like Speedball.
Hmm.
It's more the first one, the second one. And there are, listen, it's a, yes, the field scrolls the same way. And I will say there's more lead time in this than there is in Speedball. So you can actually sort of set stuff up a little bit better. One of my problems with Speedball was too zoomed in, and this is more
Hmm.
zoomed out. So I think
This
that's
is,
going to,
I mean, yeah, Speedball was too zoomed in, and also it was just the action was just too fast. Like it was really hard to kind of strategize.
yeah.
I actually found it a little bit easier to kind of pass and get a feeling for like I think maybe I can't remember how many guys are on your team on Speedball, but it seemed like there were fewer guys on the field in this too. I could be totally off, but this game I felt like the controls were better than Speedball, and I felt like the speed of the game was better than Speedball.
Well, I think the field's wider. I think
Mhm.
they take better advantage of the real estate than it did in Speedball. Listen, I'm not saying this is better than Speedball. No, it's really they have similarities and differences. I mean, there's a lot of similarities. Think about it that we'll get into in the strategy part of it. But this is one of those games that I played sometimes, and sometimes I would simulate. If
Mhm.
because
I did the same
I
thing.
wasn't great. And so sometimes I'm like, let's see what happens if I do this. And the simulation part of it, when you actually get to pick your guys, which we'll get into. But I found that I like that ability. And I mean, this game isn't as pretty, not by a long shot. It's like
Yeah.
it's like a speedball, but it's MUDs. It's not. I don't think they meant it to be pretty. Did we mention what
Right.
MUD stands for? By the way, I don't think we did. We probably should say that it means mean, ugly, dirty sport. Just to get that out of the way. Go ahead, Boat.
So, what am I going ahead with? What do you
Oh,
want
with
me to
the
talk about?
strategy part.
Okay. So now there's a whole nother side of the game besides just playing the game. When you start the game, you get an option. I think it's called action mode, where you can just get into a match, which is
Right.
cool. I
Yeah.
love that because sometimes you just want to play the game.
Yeah.
But to get the full MUDs experience, you go through the management slash strategy part of the game.
Yeah.
Okay. And the way that this is displayed is in your classic European settler style garbage, which
What?
means we don't actually put any text on the screen. We just give you tons of poorly drawn icons that you have to constantly refer back to the manual to figure out what they mean. So you get a city. The city, you get a top-down view of a city, like you're looking at a city map, okay? And instead of putting the locations on the city map, you have to hover your mouse around to get them to pop up,
Yes.
okay? This is dumb. This is real dumb, okay? When you want to put a city map on there, that's fine. Put your city map on there, but then put the areas that you can go to on the map so you don't just have to blindly mouse around to try and find what you're looking for. Okay. That's stupid and it wastes your time. Okay. Then once you find the symbol, you've got to cross check it with the symbol in the manual because some things make sense, but some things don't. Okay. Then when you get into the thing itself, okay, well, let's talk about these. Do you have the documents open to where you can go through? Because I can talk about each one, but I'm afraid I'm going to leave one out.
Well, I do have the documents here. I mean, it's not like there's a million things you can do, but I can name off the majority of them.
Well,
So,
name them one at a time, and I'll
like,
tell you if they're good or
all
not.
right. So the first thing you can do, there are multiple hotels in a city. Okay,
Right.
they range from 1 star, I think, up to what, 4. I know there's
I
at least
think
a
I think
3.
3.
And
Yeah.
these are places you could rest your team, and the amount of stars are just like a real hotel. The more you pay, but presumably your team gets better rest when they're in these hotels. So a lot of the icons are in hotels. You want to talk about the hotels at all?
There's not much to say. You basically buy rent there. I think it's per month.
Yeah, yeah. When
And
you leave town, that's you don't pay anymore. So that's the
right.
we'll get about that. Then you've got the bank. I don't know how much you
Mhm.
use the bank.
So
Uh,
I never used the bank, but this is the only place that you can go to see how much money you have in your account.
yeah,
Which I mean, like, if we're talking about like a realistic, first of all, we're talking about something that's totally not realistic. So,
right.
like thematically, I can understand where it's like, oh yeah, you need to go to the bank if you want to check your account balance.
Yeah,
But when you're playing a video game, you want an easy way to check your account balance at any time because everything that goes into the management and strategy part of this game has to do with money.
yeah.
So to me, that's the biggest flaw of this whole system is just put your account balance in the top right corner of the screen so you can see how much money you've got.
Well, I think thematically they had a theme they were going with, and this is all this whole city map thing. You could have done this in just a series of menus, but they wanted to go with an aesthetic. Okay. Then you've also got an area where you can go and to loan sharks and get loans.
Mhm. Yeah,
Uh,
and I will say that in all of these different scenes, when you click on it, there is a very nicely drawn picture
yeah,
of, like, for example, when you go to the bank, you see like a slug behind a screen or something like the banker. When you go to the loan shark, he's holding a ball bat or some sort
yeah.
of a weapon. That all those little touches are very cool. I like that.
Yeah, they did flesh out these little things. Then you've got healers. Healers do just what you think they do. You can take your team there to get them fixed up. Um, they'll tell you what's wrong with them, but you have to pay to get them fixed. Then you've got the basically the player market. Again, you've got to keep in mind that everyone on the field are slaves. and you
Yeah.
own them. And so this is
Yeah.
where you go,
This
and it's sort of uncomfortable as you watch them parade these people in shackles in front of you.
Yeah. To me, this is like the part of the game where I was like, I would not have gone this way. um, this is, and maybe it's because we're in the United States where we have a history of slavery, and maybe that Germany doesn't have in their more recent history. But whenever you line people up, they're chained by the ankle, and
Yeah.
literally a slave market with a collar. And you've got your slave, your slave arbiter that's down there telling you how much things are, they're worth. I know what they're going for. It's weird, because Germany has all these rules. They've got the blacklist of games that you can't make and stuff. This seems like, one of the more disturbing things that you might want to add to that list. I don't know. I just felt weird about this part of
Yeah,
the game.
and the thing is, you could have done this in different ways. I prefer
Yeah,
your team to be full of mercs who are just doing it for the
right.
money as opposed to. But I mean, listen, I still wouldn't have done it this way, but that's what they did. You've also got of course, you've got your inns where you can go in there. You're basically bars. You could go in
Your
and get
tavern.
excuse me, your tavern. You can go in there and get liquored up. You could also, this is another place where you could pick up players. Although I never bought any here because
Well,
but they're pricey.
yeah, one of the reviews that I saw said that they are 3 times their market value,
Oh
and this
yeah,
isn't, yeah, and so that to me, like that, I could never afford anything. I think you have to win several games before you have that kind of wad. Apparently, you can also bribe the referees. You can attempt to
yeah.
bribe the referees in the tavern, but apparently the referees, if they'll take your money and then they'll rule against you is cheek for having the gall to try and bribe them, which I think is funny.
I read a
I endorse that
I saw a
behavior.
bunch of people talking about bribing the refs, and none of them had good things to say. So I'm
Yeah,
with you on that. I never went here, but it's there. The City Chronicler. Did you ever go to the City Chronicler?
I think, is that where you save your game?
This is how you. Let me see what I'm not. I haven't not been there. I don't know what you do there. Let's see here.
I think it's where you save your
Keep the
game.
records and statistics of their successes. Uh, yeah, I don't know what that is. That's someplace I never went. I'm not sure every town even has that. And then one place I did go a lot was the betting office because you could place
Hmm.
bets on on yourself,
On
Pete
your
Rose
team
style.
and other teams,
Yeah,
yeah.
and then you can win some money that way. That's great if you think you're going to win, or if you think you're
Right.
going to lose, you can do it that
Yeah.
way. Of course, if you lose, it's not worth it for you to throw a game. I can tell you that right now. Then of course
Now,
there's the
did you
city
have
gates.
difficulty did you have difficulty negotiating the betting screen? Because to me, this was one of the more confusing menus.
Oh yeah, yeah. You have to pick. Not only you have to pick the game and the team, and then there's the painful thing of trying to figure out how to actually see how much money
Right.
you want to bet. Yeah, no, I did have trouble with that. But I got it, but it was it took me several games to figure out exactly what I was. In fact, a lot of these menus weren't exactly the easiest to get through. Like you said, this could have been done in a more this could have been done off of a pull down menu, almost all this, if you'd wanted to. But they were going for a theme, and I'll give them that. It's funny because when you actually play the game, before the game starts, you've got to put your players out there, and your players have all their statistics and then you get to assign the players where you want them to play. The different players, like the humans, like boats that are sort of good, like they're kind of like average across the board. Then you've got these things called bulls. They're big, slow, ugly, dopey-looking guys, but they're real tough to hurt. They just kind of lumber around because there's two ways to win in this game, and one is to actually win at the end of the game with the most blocks. But the other way is if your team or that team can't field a team because too many
Right.
people have died, and if that happens, then you lose if you can't field a team or they can't field a team. And one of the easiest ways to not field a team is to fall in the moat or jump in the moat, which I did lots and lots of times, especially early on. There's a sea creature in there that'll eat you if he catches you. The good thing is you can actually the computer could get falling in the moat too. And I had the computer lose 2 or 3 players in a game once because they kept going into the moat. It all depends on where the shark's at when you fall in there. So I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah.
Uh,
Two other things that I want to mention are the referee and the starting bell or
yeah,
whatever you want to call it.
the horn
So
or what?
the referee is a vaguely reptilian looking creature that actually has a whistle shaped head.
Yes.
So all she has to do is just sort of blow through her nose, I guess, and that
Yeah.
makes the whistle sound. And then to start the action, she she pounds on this other unfortunate creature. It looks like something Jabba the Hutt might eat.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if the flonk springs forth from its mouth or if the flonk just decides that's the time to jump into the action. But that's how play starts.
Yeah, and you've also got a certain number of flocks that are in the game as well.
I think that once seven flonks are scored, the game is
Yeah,
over.
yeah. It's a real it's an unusual game. It really is, and I will say in its own way, I've never played anything quite like it. Now, is this a game that because when you we mentioned the city and stuff, that's part of the campaign. And when you play a campaign in this game, you're literally your team's going from town to town. They're playing games. They're in a league, and we should mention that if you are in debt in this town, they won't let you leave. I had that happen to me a couple times. You wouldn't let me leave the town because I owed money. So that can happen. So you have to be pretty good at the game to get through all the cities, which I was not. In fact, I was. I mean, I did win. I did win a couple games. I will say that. But I was quicker to pick this up than I have other games of this ilk. I will say that. But this game was just—it's not as chaotic as other ones, but it's still pretty chaotic. I thought, didn't you think so, Bo?
Yeah. I mean, I've gone back and forth all week about whether I think this is a better game or not than
Yeah.
Speedball. I mean, this wins points automatically by not being a stupid Bitmap Brothers game.
Oh,
So that's
you are on a
undebatable.
roll tonight, aren't you?
But I mean, there are some things that Speedball definitely looks better. There's no
Yeah.
question about it. It's a better looking game. But would I rather play Speedball than this? One of the things that's good about Speedball is that the ease with which you can score goals, it's just not as difficult. You just basically walk up and the way that you fire it.
Yeah.
So it makes higher scoring games possible. Plus, there's if we talk about like Speedball 2, there's all the extra scoring opportunities and things like that.
Yeah.
But I think I I would like to play this game against you sometime just to see what
Yeah.
it's like playing against another
Me
player.
too. We left out a couple things. So we mentioned that the players have stats. You could actually, I don't know if you did this, but I did this several times. You could actually one of the options in the city is to go to the stadium and like practice. And you could actually improve your stats by doing that, which I did that sometimes. It's funny because when you're ready to play a game, you have to go to the stadium and like basically notify everyone that there's going to be a game. Then they set you up with a game, then you play the game. But the stadium is another place you end up visiting when you're in the town. Uh, and the stats, the players have stats. How well do these stats? I mean, definitely you can tell the good players from the bad players because some of the bad players are just dumb, like real
Mhm.
dumb. There are certain zones in this game where you like. I mean, you could people just go in there and beat the crap out of each other. There's certain zones where you can and can't call timeouts because sometimes you need to make a replacement or whatever. You can sort of tell when your guy's mauled because he'll it takes him a while to get up, and then eventually they just don't get up. That means he's
Right.
dead. That's a
Right.
dead guy. So you've sort of got to. I didn't learn this early on, and so I was having guys fall over left and right because I wasn't pulling them out of the game. I was
Now,
like,
the
well,
hilarious thing is that this reminded me of the soccer game for the Nintendo called Nintendo World Cup,
yeah,
where guys literally also die on the field.
they
Where
die
they
in
just
soccer. Holy
Yeah,
smokes!
yeah, yeah. So these are the only games that I've played that are like that. That's what made me think of that.
Yeah, I mean, we're not. This game is deeper than you would think, and we're not even covering everything. But I mean, there are like 5 or 6 stats per character, and they range it from everything from moral to morale, I should say, to stamina, to speed, to how good they are at playing certain positions. I mean, there's a lot to it, and I think if you were really dedicated to this game, you could probably get in here and really put together a team that you
Yeah.
like and kind of. I mean,
And
there's a lot of ability to tinker with your team to make them like do what you want. And there's a ways to build up your players by getting better players and training the
right.
players you got. I mean, you could really get in there, probably get real dedicated to it, Boat.
And I was sort of burying the game earlier for saying, with its icon based things and stuff like that. But here's the thing. If you're serious about this game and you're serious about wanting to get better at it, you're going to learn what those icons mean. It's just
Oh
like
yeah,
Settlers.
it's not
You're
that
just going to
tough.
learn it. It's not the easiest thing to jump into and kind of get going, but you can learn it, and I'm sure that this game can be extremely enjoyable, even if you just play it from a sim perspective. And
Yeah.
because, like you said, the statistics for each character are so fleshed out.
And apparently that playing this as a sim, a lot of people do that and they enjoy it. So that tells me that they've done a good job on the back end of this thing,
Right.
making it realistic and making your decisions mean something. We also should mention that during the game, you can also adjust your offense, your defense. What are you going to play aggressive? Are you going to play offensively, defensively? You're going to try to guard a lead, stuff like that. So there's also the tactical things that you can do, even if you're not actually playing the characters, yourself. So, and I thought, like I both mentioned earlier, I thought the controls were pretty solid. And when the game, I wasn't great at the game, but I think I might be able to get good at it. I'll have to say this one when I fired it up and went to that city map, I was like, "Oh God, here, what is this?" Because I'm not necessarily into that sort of thing, but I I didn't find it as abrasive as you did because there's not that many icons to memorize. I popped the
Well,
doctor right away on
here's the
this
thing
one.
though, like when you go to a new city, they're all like you get a new map and everything's in a different place. And I mean, it's not ideal because when you want to go somewhere, you want to go somewhere. You don't want to have to hunt and peck around for it.
No, I'm not saying. Listen, your opinion, I understand. I fully understand it, but it's not the worst. I mean, again, they were
It's
going
not the
for
worst.
something. They were
Yeah,
going for
it's not the
something,
worst.
and so it was what it was. They did release. We mentioned that they released this in DOS, and so lo and behold, I've got the DOS version here on the comparison thing. And guess what? You're going to be stunned to know that these aren't that much different. I will say, actually, the DOS, the music is not good. I know, stunning revelation, but it stinks. But the Amiga version is a much better sounding. But I mean, graphically, there's not a ton of difference between the two, if I'm honest, from what
You
I
know,
saw.
if I'm being honest, I think the DOS version actually looks slightly better. I think that the green on the field looks slightly better. I think there's a little bit more detail in the players. So that's just my two
It was
cents.
VGA, so they
Hmm.
got that going
Right.
for them. But I don't think you're going to lose anything by. I mean, you're going to gain better music, that's for sure. I don't think you're
Mhm.
going to lose too much. It's a trade off. Um, the reviews on this were they were interesting. The people in Lemon give it a 7.73, so not the worst. Uh, the cumulative average from the magazines that they surveyed on here listed this as an 81%. Hey, Joker gave this thing an 87, so they're putting it over there. In fact, that was one of the highest reviews I
I would
saw.
love to see. I would love to see a cross-reference chart of Amiga Joker scores versus Amiga games produced in Germany.
I knew you were going to say that. You would say they're homers.
Yes.
Well, I don't know. We don't know. We have no basis for that. Hey, they like this game. A lot of people liked it. Amiga Action though was the low man on the totem pole. They only gave this a 67%. They weren't interested in the game that much, and they didn't think it would look that good either. I read the review. Did we get any Discord action on this boat?
The Discord group took the week off this week. They wanted nothing to do with MUDs, so we
Really?
got no Discord
That's a shame
reviews.
because I think this is a game that really people would enjoy.
Yeah,
I'm
this
gonna
is this
I'm
is
gonna
the
put it
perfect
over.
this is the perfect sports game for a 16-bit computer because it offers depth that you just don't find on console-based sports games at this time. Like in 1990, there was nothing on the consoles that had this kind of depth.
I think again, there's a lot of this that reminds me a lot of Speedball 2, including the stuff bribing the revs, tweaking up your team and stuff. But I thought this was I'm not saying this is a better game again, but I am saying that I was better at this than I've ever been at the Speedball games. And again, I'm like you. I kind of like that the reticle action and the
One of the
path and stuff.
things that I really like about this game too is that you can immediately tell, unlike Speedball, you can immediately tell which guy has what characteristic just by looking at him.
Yeah,
Like the lizard guys look totally different than the big hulking beast guys, and they act accordingly.
yeah.
I like it when they sort of spell out what each guy does. It's like ice hockey on the NES. You had like really skinny fast guy, you had really tubby slow guy. I like being able to tell because you can make your strategy when you pass it to guys, you know what they're going to do. Like one of my favorite things in this game is to pass it to one of the big hulking guys and just having him run roughshod over all the little guys as he makes his way up the field. That's
Yeah,
really
there's
satisfying.
also like worm guys, and there's a little
Octopus
there's
guy.
little green. There's real. There's a diverse. You're right. You can always tell just by looking at them what you're gonna get. That's always nice. Although sometimes some guys will surprise you given their stats. But I thought it was interesting. You know, this game does play much slower than a speedball, but there's a lot more, goal out, ball, or I guess pterodactyls out and stuff where they have to kind of reposition the ball and start again. So that it's not as quick a play, and also when guys, and we're seeing it now on the screen, when guys get stuck in the moat, there's sort of you have to waggle your stick to get out of there, and which is fine. I don't have a problem with that, but sometimes it just slows everything down while you're waiting for them to either get eaten or get out of the water. So it's definitely a slower game. There's a lot more timeouts and stuff in this where you're going to be in there. You're going to be taking the timeouts to adjust your characters and stuff. So it is more. I would say it's more tactical in every element of that than say a speedball. And so that's what you should be ready for when you get into this game. That's the kind of game you're getting into, a more tactical sort of a speedball type game.
Right.
Lastly, to close it out, I looked this up on the eBay boat. Now, this is interesting. I saw these. I saw none of these sold, but there are some selling. They're all in the UK. You can get these complete in box for around $80. That's what they were fishing for. I don't know if they're getting it. I did see a guy that was selling several of these new in box, still sealed. He was fishing for $1.80 or $1.60 on these, $160
Hmm.
US dollars. So I don't know if this was not a big seller. I don't know if these guys are just trying to get some action. I don't know. But that's some pretty good chump change right there for a game like
It
this.
is.
I would I would maybe think about picking something like this up if it was on the cheaper side. That's a little bit too much for my wallet to handle, so I won't be picking this one up. But still, a pretty fun game, Bode.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree. Good box art too.
Yeah,
Good
no,
box art.
gosh, great box art. I agree with you on that.
Mhm. All right, Aaron. Well, we leave muds and we go right to another kind of mud, our YouTube
There you
channel.
go. Here we are. So let's start off this week, Bode. I'm going to let you talk about this one. This was our R. Sinclair for the month.
So we did Fast Food, otherwise known as Fast Food Dizzy.
Yeah.
This is a Dizzy game of a different color. I guess it truly is because I think Dizzy is yellow in this game instead of white. Um, and it's a maze chase game. It's very reminiscent of your Pac-Man or KC Munchkin. But it's I liked it. I liked it a lot. I liked it more than most did. In fact, this was a budget title. I think it released at £1 or £2.99.
Yeah.
And it's a game where you are you're negotiating your way through mazes, tracking down food that's moving around while you're being chased by monsters. There's power ups. There's a great variety of different stages. And I just thought that it was just a good all round arcade homage. What did you think, Aaron?
I like this game quite a bit. This was this. Actually, I don't know which is more surprising, this or Muds in terms because I was like, man, I'm going to bury this thing. But listen, as soon as I turned this on, I just looked at it. Big, acute graphics. It's I like the setup. I wish the actual screen was larger, but I like the game. It was more fun than I thought. It is exactly what you think it is, which that's unusual. I mentioned on the show that it reminds me sort of the Odyssey 2 version of Casey Munchkin. I really enjoyed this show. I hope that you people will be more than happy to check this out. We had a lot of fun with R. Sinclair boat. So here's an interesting morsel. This is an insert disc 2 that we recorded without even knowing we were recording it. I think this was last week or 2 weeks ago when we talked about my trip to the Mothman Festival. Mothman Festival was a couple weeks ago, and I have a hot take on this
Hmm.
episode. Boat asked me some biting questions in here as we get into it. Boat, or do you think you'll ever go back down to a Mothman Festival?
Once was enough.
Once was it? So you're out.
Yeah.
Understandable. And you could hear my eyewitness report on this. So we had a lot of fun. I like these insert discs too. We've been kicking a couple of these out here and there just because me and Bo have been in the talking mood here recently. I know you're stunned to
Yeah,
hear
we
that.
have.
Here's a little something that myself and the Brent put together. This is the ARG Presents, and the category this week that we spun, games that defined a genre. This was a lot of fun. for me and the Brent because we got to pick a couple games that we had an argument for that would define their genre. Brent defined the roguelike genre with Rogue. Safe choice, because it was
You defined the breakout genre with Arkanoid.
well, I don't know if you listened to the show, but
I've already heard it. I
had my
listened to it immediately.
I had my reasons for that. For one thing, that was a dead genre, and for another reason, you could almost make a play that the breakout genre had went as far as it could go. And so this, Brent gave me. Listen, if Brent gave me a pass, I feel like I'm safe. Picking
Well, I'll tell you
Arkanoid.
this. I'll tell you this. You had a perfect pick for a wheel piece that said games that redefined a genre or games that were resurrected for the dead.
Yeah, well, either way, and also games that define the genre completely fit the category. So listen, check us out. We actually had a real good time on this one, Boat.
I loved both of these games, so this
Yeah,
was a real treat for me.
Brent, I was amazed that Brent hated Arkanoid. I've never met anyone.
I was amazed that you were amazed because he literally talks about how he hates these games on every show.
Well, as I mentioned often, I never pay attention to what Brent says. Now this one, Boat, holy, I've got to get an explanation of how you came up with this one, Boat. Tell the people what you've done.
So for the past several weeks, I've been falling asleep to the sweet, sweet sounds of Questing Beast, reading the original AD&D Dungeon Master's Guide from 1979.
Oh my God!
And so I was like, you know what do I have that might offer people some sort of late night relief? And so I decided to pull out from the shelf, several years ago when I received the Amiga 1000 from my uncle. It came with the original Amiga user guide. So I pulled this thing off the shelf and I was like, you know what? This is cool. This is cool because it is explaining so many things that we take for granted. Like things like Windows, things like just basic movements with the mouse and clicking mouse buttons and how things react. And so what I do, and it's this thing is fully color on the inside. Of course, the Amiga 1000, unlike pretty much every other Amiga ever made, was a premium product that was designed for a premium audience.
Yeah.
And so everything about it was just very well was almost overproduced. And so going through this thing is pretty interesting. And like I said, if you just want to put it on while you're doing something else, or you want to take a look at some of the color pictures that are inside this thing, you can, as far as I know, I'm the only person that's ever attempted to read the Amiga 1000 user guide. And I plan on making this a multi-part series. I can really only do about 20-25 minutes before I start to put myself to sleep. So look for a part 2 soon.
That was my question. Let me ask you, Boat. When you sit down to read this thing, I mean, are you reading? I haven't listened to this yet, by the way. And first of all, I said, are you going to release this on the podcast channel? Is this going out?
No.
Oh,
I think
you should think about that.
Okay.
And secondly, are you reading like the table 6 says, or I mean, how in depth is this reading?
What I do is I read anything that's presented in sentence form.
Yeah, awesome.
So anything that's like a matrix or anything like that, I'm not going to read. But anything that's in paragraph form, I read.
Let me ask you, the guy that's reading the DM's guide, because those old DM's guides were ripe with old tables. Is he going through and reading all the tables and that?
Again, I copied his idea wholesale. He does not read the matrices. He says, and then you have a table that talks about
You can get through the D&D guide in about 10 minutes if you skip all the tables. It's got thousands of tables.
It's got tons of. I had no idea how many tables were in that thing.
Very good, Boat. I think this is a very clever idea, Boat. I think that's data. Keep them coming, brother.
I will.
Plus, hey, everyone likes to go to bed. Who wouldn't want to go to bed to the soothing tones of Butte reading Amiga guides? Lovely. Mm-hmm. Let's switch over to the stream team. We actually had some hot action this week on the stream team. Listen, here's what I dug up, Boat. I don't know if we mentioned this last week, but it's, in our continuing quest to find stuff that I never released on the stream team channel. Here's a video of me, you, and me, you, and Luke playing the Dungeons & Dragons Tower of Doom arcade game. I think we beat the whole game, so it's just like video goes on for a while. And at the tail end of it, you want to watch me and Luke play Rampage, which this is the new Rampage. So if you like watching just like nutty arcade banter with myself
This
and the
one seems to
boat.
be like years before even the last one, because Luke is like aging in reverse on
Well,
these. He's even younger in this
this
one.
is a similar time frame because it was a very limited amount of time that I had the arcade cams to fire it up. So, but
Okay,
yeah, so
okay.
I dug that one out and stuck up. Again, this has never been released before, so if you might get a kick out of it. Um, okay, we gotta go ahead and I guess we'll go ahead and talk about this. Uh, Last Saturday, it all went down at the International Computer Club. It was a 4 hour and 19-minute extravaganza, I guess. When we really did have some excellent presenters on here. We got to spend 40 minutes with Mr. Pleasant's boat, which was I really enjoyed having Mr. Pleasant's come around. I feel
Absolutely.
I feel like we've made it now. Once again, we had Mr. Pleasant's come on. Thanks to Frank at Retro Rewind for getting him on the show. That was a lot of fun. We heard from we had so many presenters. I don't want to miss anybody, so I'm not going to mention. We had a lot of presenters on here, and this thing ran so long, I thought I'd split it into two parts.
Look at that TeamSpeak Irregulars banner. Did you make that?
Yeah, I did.
That
Um,
looks great. It looks like the TSR logo
it
just
is.
kind of
I did
switched
that.
a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
That's
So,
awesome.
thank you, Boat. So anyway, this was this was a long show, so I split this into half. So we're gonna release part two, probably late, like next week. It'll come out of International Computer Club. If you don't want to watch it on Twitch, I will say these two the two parts I've got coming up now on the YouTube channel are cursing free. I went through and edited the crap out of it, so you can sit down if you want to watch this with your family or whatever. You can sit down and watch it. I took out all the major cursories in the end. So this was this was an interesting event, boat, and but I think it's certainly there's a lot of good stuff in here. In fact, thanks to the thanks to Graham's segment, I actually went out and bought that book. It's sitting right over here, the DOS book he looked at. So there's some good tips in there for some good reading material as well, and some projects and stuff. So an interesting event that's up on the Amiga Stream Team section, and then finally on the Amiga Stream Team, and I was privy to this last night. Our good buddy Jack Flack fired up the old AO 486 Mister Core boat to play some old DOS games last night, including Prince of Persia was one. He also played some Donkey Kong clones. He also played some pinball. So he played a lot of stuff on here, and then he also played a lot Out of This World. You know, we sort of buried Out of This World last night, boat, because of the beginning. We never. I don't know if we ever talked this, but whoever thought this was a great way to begin the game is an idiot. With those
Yep.
stupid little claw leeches at the
Yep.
beginning of it,
Yep.
that sucked.
Yep.
You know, so yeah, I hated that. It's a great looking game. It's a very clever game, but that's annoying. Anyway, check out Jack Flack at Sprite Castle. It's also on the Amigos Stream Team channel. Please subscribe today to the Amigos Stream Team. 3 words. All content comes directly from streams or from our archives of unreleased footage. So that's a little plug there, but that's all I've got, my friend.
I love it. I love it. All right, Aaron. We're going to move on to the Patreon song challenge from last week. Nobody got the correct answer.
How college was it? Was this one? I can't
well,
remember what it was.
This is the opposite of college.
I know
Have you
what
ever
this one-
heard?
I knew this
Oh,
one.
you know what it is? What is it?
Wasn't this Avril Lavigne? Was that
That's
one I heard?
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you should have answered it.
I
'cause
didn't
you
know
would
I
have been the
didn't know
only
I could
one.
win. I thought I was ineligible to win these things.
You're always a winner.
Oh,
So, this was "Don't Tell Me" by Avril Lavigne. So if you are into Canadian girl songers, you can you
I
would have
like some of
known
her
that.
stuff. I like some of her
Yeah, me
stuff.
too.
I'm
Me too.
comfortable with that.
Yeah. So, anyway,
I'm a
that
skater
was
boy.
that. Yeah, I like Skater Boy and Complicated. So,
Both of them.
we move on to this week's Patreon song challenge. Okay.
Yeah.
If you know it, send me an email at john@amigospodcast.com and I will announce you as the winner. You are watching live in chat. You can please don't put it in the chat. Make it fun for everyone. I'm trying to get myself in the right mind space to do this one.
Oh man.
Because it's going to involve some instrumentation. Okay, here we go. Jack, Hawk, Richard, Baker, Alec, Bieber, Data, Doc, I too, Scooby, Daniel, James, Milo, Mashpar, Explorer, Ingrid, Ida, Robot Doctor, Pack Billy, Rob McDavid, Howard Price, Jazz Dog, R Typer, Face, Pooh Hands, Chris Edwards, Pencil Alarm, Albert Kim, we like what we like, Mr. Chill, Peter Price, Herman V, Wanda Lee, Chesem, Mark Richardson, David Hearn, Ramo, K. Ramo, K. David Terrace, Drew Carlos, Matthew, Mobius, the Phantom Magnus, Seth Yates, Alistair Fiend, David, George Rosansky, the Amiga Show, Daniel Crabtree, Super, Family King, Crazy Loomis, or William Vinter, Scott Heavy Systems, Inc., Frank Rock, Byland, Oil of Hope, Alien Breeder, David Law, Silver Raptor, Cabot Boy, Daniel Williams, Luke Cousin, Bomb the Bass, Frodo Winell, Solon Sizer, Tag Mage, Jürgen, Mr. Cola, Bernard Lucas, Jerry Dennington, Zorglub, Reflection, Simon Lesh, Captain Lash, Captain Crispy, Killer, Bison, Caffeine, Gary Heather, Free Lunch, Kate Fox, David Pickford, Cameron Armstrong, Danny Jones, Albert Terminator, Timon and Amiga Gas, Break It Down, RMC, Bernard Quinn, Tim Drew, Joseph Harrison, Kyle Letter, Rob O'Hara, Matthew Larry Moore, Andy Craig, Sean Zoe, Organ Solo, Bark Beer, Rollerberg, Andrew Buck, Charlie Zombie, Leaf Canard, Alligator Bob, Jacob 311, Lord Shaw, Marshall, Matthew Perron, Creepy, Dan Bartholow, Doris Stefford, Sorgon, Edvin, Christopher Hassel, Chris Foles, Laura Giroux, Graham Bebke, Adam Battersby, O'Brien's Retro and Vintage, Gary Hucker, Paul Harrington, Duncan, Duncan Styles, Tales from the Crib, Josh and Adam Bradley, Jonas Rouleau, Eric Nelson Daniel, Bigson Darren Coles, Jason Warnes, Pixels at Dawn, and Kyo Barman.
Wow. You know, I'm a big fan of that song, and it took everything I had to not just jump in, and because I love that song so much.
It's a great song.
I'm serious. I love that song. I knew it the second you started. I'm like, oh no. So for once, you picked one that I like. That was, well, I mean, I used to like it anyway. You of course ruined it horribly. That ending was you had me until the organ solo. Then that's
what do we got coming up next week on Amigos, Aaron?
Let's see what we got here. Oh man, I've heard of this one. It must be a flashback episode.
It's a second look at cannon fodder. We must have done this one within our first 50 episodes because that is the rule. So it'll be nice to take another look at an Amiga classic.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, Boat. It'll be fun to go back because that's not what I've played all that much since we played it.
Now, I would be remiss if I forgot to mention our awesome, awesome Twitch subscribers because I should have done that before the big reveal. But sometimes I just get so wrapped up in the Patreon song that I can't think straight. And so, I will do that for you now. We got Goldilocks, UK. We got Level Lord, Da Krabs, MTG, TSI Matt, Benz 666, Robert Wendell, Mr. Rocket, Texas Foosballer, Grizzla, Super Tech Boy, Spinny 108, Amiga Live, Brother Bill, Amy Steph, Great Owl G, Beach Bum 7, Barry Dingle, M. Cron, Mitsuyama, RetroRewind.ca, John Marshall 3, Steve Burtz, Blue Train, Real Retro Dude, Pints and Amiga, Wide World of Retro, Negsol, Yeet Sweats, Explorer, Holy Guacamole, I2 Scooby, Eeyore 4077, Boat of Car, oh that's me, Thurso Bard, Dave 7G 1000, Jigglebox, Jabasoft, Pakutake, Pixels at Dawn Gaming, Uber Scuba Diver, Mash Pie, Tinmark, Tinfoil, Tinmark and Tinfoil back to back, Double Tin, Petzel K9 Zap, Buck Owens, Elk, Curtis Boyle,
All hell,
Oram, Edvin Helland, Retro Jerry, Oil of Hope, HSEI Ken, Happy Coding ZX, and Barkbit.
You know, I'm glad that we've progressed to the point where you are now our sponsor, Boat. Thank you.
I kick in, man.
Thanks,
oh,
man.
Okay. Well, I got your message, Pixels at Dawn. Sorry I screwed up. All right. So, we will see you guys next week. And until then,
Adios.
adios.